There's an old saying that goes, history has a way of repeating itself. And we know that this is true. Those who do not learn the lessons of history are destined to repeat those same mistakes of the past on and on in an endless and destructive cycle. And this is literally what we call world history, an ongoing cycle of events. And this is very important because we know that the Almighty, the Infinite One, Yahuwah, has commanded us that every single year in the spring, in the month called Abib on the scriptural calendar, that we are to observe the Pesach, which is Passover and Hag Matzot, literally the festival of unleavened bread. And this time is literally the anniversary of the redemption of the children of Israel out of bondage, out of the iron furnace, the house of slavery, which is called Mitzrayim or Egypt. And this message is very important for people today because we see that the walls are closing in all around us, that this tyrannical system, this world system, the New World Order, is beginning to shut down economies all over the world and to put them under lock and key, to keep them oppressed, and that there are new laws and restrictions constantly taking away the rights of individuals, not just in America, but all over the world. And during such a time, people need hope. They need the message of the scriptures. They need to understand that Yahuwah has a plan, that he has a strategy to redeem them from the world system, from the system of Pharaoh and his idols, so to speak. And this is, again, the most beautiful time to understand because this picture of the Pesach, of the Passover and unleavened bread, doesn't just speak of what happened thousands of years ago, but it also projects into the future, what will happen at the great final redemption, when Yahuwah destroys the New World Order and the system of the beast. And he brings an end to this slavery, this system of slavery and destruction of his people. This system is designed to make you weak, to destroy you, to bring you down, to break apart your family, to take your children and to indoctrinate them, and to install in them immorality and sexual deviance and all types of perversions that the scriptures call to'abah, that literally is an abomination. So we need to understand the past so that we can understand the future. The ordinance and the decrees and all the laws involving the Pesach or the Passover and unleavened bread can be found in what is called the Torah. The word Torah literally means instruction. It is sometimes translated as law. Often the Torah, the books of Genesis through Deuteronomy, is called the books of Moses or Moshe because he was the mediator between Yahuwah, the Infinite One, and the over 1 million Israelites who would make that Exodus journey out of the house of bondage and toward the promised land. We know that the children of Israel were under the affliction of Pharaoh and under all of his laws and decrees, and they called out to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sent to them a savior in the form of Moshe or Moses. And Yahuwah struck the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt with plagues and all kinds of destruction, 10 plagues to be exact, where he plagued not only Pharaoh and his house and all of his servants, but also the very idols that they worshipped. And this is very important to understand so that we can understand the future redemption, the future plan, because there will be another Exodus. Yahuwah has spoken many places, but in the passage we will look at in Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 7, we read, "Therefore, see the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they shall no more say, as Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim, but as Yahuwah lives, who brought up and led the seed of the house of Israel out of the land of the north, and from all the lands where I have driven them, and they shall dwell in their own soil." So we have an expectation of Exodus, an expectation of redemption, the crushing of Pharaoh and his system, the crushing of the New World Order and of slavery, and that the Israelites will be redeemed by Yahuwah, by his mighty outstretched hand. Now, just to review, the Israelites, they were in Mitzrayim or Egypt. Yahuwah sent Moshe or Moses, and he did these plagues. The final plague was the death of the firstborn. And during this final plague, Yahuwah had a plan to redeem the firstborn of Israel. And the plan involved that every single family would take for themselves a lamb, a perfect one, a yearling, and that this lamb would be slaughtered. Then the meat would be roasted on the fire with bitter herbs. The blood of the lamb would be taken and marked on the doorpost. And this is a picture of the judgment, because we read in Shemoth, or Exodus chapter 12, verse 13, and the blood shall be a sign. That word in Hebrew is oath. Aleph Wal Taw. That will be really important as this study progresses, but this word again is oath, a sign. It literally means not just a sign, a token, a wonder. But it will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come onto you to destroy you when I smite the land of Mizraim. And this day shall become to you a remembrance. And you shall observe it as a festival to Yahuwah throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival, an everlasting law. So we see that this law to keep the Torah, to keep the Pesach, the Passover, and Hag Matzot, the festival of matzah or unleavened bread, is forever. Yahuwah says that these are his festivals in the book of Wayikra, Leviticus chapter 23. He doesn't say these are the festivals of the Israelites, or these are the festivals of the Jews. He says these are my festivals. He owns these festivals. He gave them to us as a gift. They are literally gifted to us as a remembrance to keep us awake, to keep us aware spiritually, so that we understand that this repeating cycle of history, it doesn't just end in darkness and destruction and tyranny and slavery, but that there is redemption on the other side, and that Yahuwah will ransom his people with the blood of the Lamb, and that when he sees that blood, he passes over us. And that is the picture of Yahuwah in the last days. He is going to look for a sign. He's going to look for the oath. And when he sees that oath in your life, when he sees that that blood is applied, he will pass over you. Now we're going to talk about the spiritual implications of what that means in this particular lesson a little bit. And it's very, very fascinating, because this term oath doesn't just appear in this passage where you see that when Yahuwah sees the blood on the lintel of the door, that he passes over you, because it is a sign, an oath, Aleph Wal Taw. But also this oath, this sign appears in the Passover narrative again in the book of Shemoth, Exodus chapter 13, verse 9. This is what is said about the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. In verse 9, and it shall be as a sign, an oath. Again, this word, Aleph Wal Taw, we're going to talk about its significance in just a moment. It shall be a sign. Just remember, it is the oath to you on your hand, and as a reminder between your eyes, that the Torah of Yahuwah is to be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahuwah has brought you out of Mizraim, and you shall guard this law at its appointed time from year to year. It's very fascinating. Yahuwah has said this will be an oath, this will be a sign between your eyes and in your right hand. Most of the time, if someone were to hear the idea of a mark or a sign in the forehead or in the right hand, they literally almost always will go straight to the book of Revelation and remember this idea of the mark of the beast, the famous 666, the magical number that will be used in this black magic ceremony of marking the people in the New World Order. This is very interesting, of course, because there is some parallel. However, how many people actually are aware of the fact that the Almighty has already declared how he was going to sign his people, how he's going to mark them? And of course, we see right here, the Passover is a part of this revelation. The Passover is a part of the great marking of Yahuwah's people. The beast has his mark, yes, but Yahuwah also has his mark, his seal. It will be an oath. And not only the Passover, but we also see in the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, that the Shema, the greatest commandment, which is Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad, Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah your Elohim, Yahuwah is one. This commandment is also said to be a sign between your eyes or in your forehead and in your right hand. The forehead is significant because this is where the pineal gland is. This is where the visions and dreams manifest in the mind of man. This is where a man uses his visionary state, his daydream state, or all these types of things to envision what he will do, what he will think. All these things happen here. Of course, the right hand is significant because this is what we work with. This is how we bring those visions into reality. This is how we do the works here on earth. So it's literally stating that with your mind and all of your strength, you are to keep the commandments of Yahuwah, and that they will be a sign to you. They will be a sign in your forehead and in your right hand. The same with the beast system, the beast, the mark of the beast. It's going to be in the forehead because that's where the visions, that's where the dreams, that's where the imagination takes place. That's where, all these thoughts take place, your mind and your subconscious mind as well. And of course, your right hand is what you do your work with, who you worship, how you worship. That's how it all works. So we need to understand this. This is prophetic for the last days. This is prophetic for the time that we live in. We see that there's a global shutdown. We see there's this massive amount of technocracy that is taking place, the massive censorship, in so much that there are various things that I can't even say in this particular teaching, because if I do, it will be snatched from the internet. It will be deleted. That no one will ever allow it to be presented, because we are under that type of tyranny, that type of manipulation and control. The people of the world are being broken down by their leaders, and their leaders are power hungry, driven by power and greed. We see that there's this massive transfer of wealth that is taking place in these last days. They call it the Great Reset. All these different things are happening that I can't even go into. But the point is, just know we see again that this snare is closing in on us, and we can feel it. The negativity, the darkness, all these things that are coming, the hatred, the violence, the riots, the fires, all these things are coming. And we need redemption. We need to be redeemed from the system of Pharaoh and from the house of slavery. We need to make an exodus. And how do we do so? With the mark of Yahuwah, with the seal of Yahuwah, which involves his Passover, which involves also his great and awesome name. Let's talk a little bit about this word oath, that is the word for sign. It is very interesting because in the book of Revelation, we see that the Mashiach, the Messiah, he refers to himself as the Aleph and the Tav. We see in the Greek translation, of course, it says Alpha and Omega, but the Aramaic Peshitta does not say that. And of course, we know the Messiah spoke Hebrew because the Greek tells us he spoke Hebraeus, which is Hebrew. And in Hebrew, the Aleph and the Tav are the first and last letters of the Hebrew Aleph Beit. And what happens with this range of letters, of course, in the book of Genesis is that the creator of the universe speaks all into existence. So the entirety of the universe, all the worlds, all the dimensions of space and time are created. Light, the creatures of the earth, all these things are all created using words, using that range of letters, Aleph through Tav. In the very beginning in Genesis, we read, Bereshith bara Elohim et hashamayim, which literally reads, in the beginning created Elohim, and then it has the letters Aleph and Tav, the first and the last, and then the word hashamayim wa'aretz, which means the heavens and the earth. So the Creator created the heavens and the earth using the Aleph and the Tav. This is revealed only in Hebrew, not in your English versions, not in your Greek version, not in your Latin version, only in Hebrew. This is vital to understand because the book of John says that the Messiah is the Word. In the beginning was the Word. Literally in Aramaic, when you read the book of Yahuchanan or John, it says Bereshith, in the beginning was the Word. That's the very first word of Genesis. Bereshith, in the beginning was the Word. What is the Word? The Aleph and Tav. I'm telling you all that to tell you this. When you take this range of letters, Aleph and Tav, and you understand what it means and it implies this word, then you will understand the significance of the word oath. Because to make the word oath in Hebrew, you have to literally pierce the Aleph Tav. That's right. You insert a letter, the letter Waw. And the letter Waw, which is sometimes called Vav, but it is historically Waw, it literally means a nail. That's the literal word for nail in Hebrew. And when you pierce the Aleph Tav, when you insert the wall right in the center, you have the word oath. And this word oath means not just a sign or a wonder, it also means a letter, implying the Hebrew letters. The word is plural is othiot for letters. So this is the sign, the piercing of the Aleph Tav. This idea and concept of the piercing is important and crucial because it is also a picture of that perfect lamb. Remember, the lamb had to be a perfect one. And not only that, but the blood on the door would be an oath. It would be a sign. And Yahuwah tells us later that we are to take parchment of scrolls and we put them on our doorpost with the commandments. And that this is to be a sign also. So our doorpost now has a scroll, with the commandments on it. But during Passover, there was the blood, the idea of the blood and the word, the idea of the suffering of Messiah. And remember, Moshe was commanded to sprinkle the blood of the sacrifice even on the book, on the scroll of the Torah, and on the people. So this idea of the blood being this idea of redemption has always been there. It was the blood of the lamb that purchased the firstborn of the Israelites and redeemed them from death on the night when Yahuwah went through Egypt and smote the firstborn of the Egyptians. This is so important to understand because this ties it all together with the idea of Mashiach. And most people understand that the Passover points to Mashiach. There's been a lot of teaching and a lot of information over the years where people are finally grasping that the Mashiach, Yahushua, his name was never Jesus. His name is and was Yahushua. And that name means Yahuwah's salvation, that he is a picture of this lamb. But not just that. He's also a picture of Moses, the Savior that was sent to redeem the people. But remember, Moses or Moshe could not lead the children of Israel into the land. He was not allowed to go into the promised land. Instead, his own student, Yahushua or Joshua, was the one who led them in. And this again is another picture of Messiah. Because again, his name is Yahushua, the same name as Joshua the son of Nun, or Nun, Ben Nun. This is very vital. Yod-Heh Wal Shin Wal Ayin, Yahushua, means Yahuwah's salvation. And there's so much embedded that I could literally go on and on and on. But we're going to move forward. So I'll give you an example of this in the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. Of course, Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah prophesied there would be a renewing of the covenant. And that was what Yahushua, that's what his mission was. That's what he came to do. So that is why we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, by the pen of Shaul, who was called Paul, he says, your boasting is not good. Do you not know that a little leaven leavens the entire lump? Therefore, cleanse out the old leaven. Get rid of it, so that you are a new lump, as you are unleavened. For also Mashiach, or Messiah, our Passover, was offered for us. So then let us observe the festival, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. And here he goes into even a prophetic meaning of matzot, that it is the removal of sin, that it is the purging of sin, and a renewal, a starting over, to be a new lump, because Messiah, Mashiach, was our Passover. Now, of course, we know that this was all symbolic. Yahushua was called the Lamb of Yahuwah. When Yahuchanan or John the Immerser saw him afar, he said, behold the Lamb of Yahuwah. We see throughout the book of Revelation that the Messiah is presented as a lamb. We see in the book of Psalm 23 that David said, Yahuwah Ro'i, Yahuwah is my shepherd, I shall not lack. And Yahuwah is the shepherd, his son, Yahushua, is the lamb. You see, it's such a prophetic picture. It's so deep. There's so much to say about this particular subject. But to drive it further, we know that Yahushua was offered, or literally martyred. And in the Jewish tradition, the term for a martyr is literally, to make the name Kodesh. It is called Kodesh Hashem. It means to set apart or sanctify the name, the four-lettered name of Yahuwah, to die for the name. And that is what Yahushua did. He died for the name of Yahuwah. He was martyred. And he, as a martyr, is a picture of the suffering of this lamb, the slain lamb, who is the Passover. He's a symbolic representation. Also a symbolic representation of the pure unleavened bread without sin. So there's a lot there. But how do we know he was killed on the day of the Passover? Because of the book of John, or Yahuchanan, chapter 19, verse 14, it says, "And it was the preparation day of the Passover, and about the 6th hour. And he said to the Yahudim, see your sovereign." And so we see here that it was the preparation day of the Passover. What day is that? That is literally the 14th of the scriptural month called Abib. It was later called, after the Babylonian captivity, Nisan, but we don't use that because it's a pagan etymology. However, Abib means the tender ears of barley, the tender heads of barley. So it refers to this time because there was a great harvest, the first fruit harvest, which was directly tied into Hag Matzoth. That was this time of harvest. So there's a last days implication of the great harvest, the end times harvest, right there in the idea of this, all this happening within the context of this time. And there's a lot more. However, we see also in Yahuchanan 19, we go down a little bit further in verse 31, it says, "Therefore, since it was the preparation day," talking about the preparation day of Passover, "that the body should not remain on the stake on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high one. The Yahudim then asked Pilate to have their legs broken, that they should be taken away. And of course, when they came to Yahushua, he was already dead. So they did not break his legs, just like the Passover lamb could not have a single bone broken." And there is so much more that one could say. I mean, I could literally go on for hours about the correlation between the actual Passover sacrifice and the actual death, burial, and resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach. However, we want to get right into this idea of the latter days and the end times and what is going on. During this time in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, in the house of slavery, when the Israelites were there and they're groaning out and they're calling out for Yahuwah because of the tribulation and all the things that Pharaoh had heaped upon them and that system of Pharaoh and all of his idols, they're calling out to Yahuwah, and he brings redemption through plagues, judging the land and judging those demons that they worshipped. We see that Yahuwah poured out 10 plagues: blood, frogs, lice, gnats, pestilence, boils, hail, locust, darkness, and the death of the firstborn. All these events took place, and when we read the book of Revelation, what do we see? The exact same plagues are poured out. Everything from the blood to the hail to the locusts to even the frogs. All these things we see in the book of Revelation. Of course, I'm not going to go through all of that right now. I have other videos that go through that in great detail. But the point is to bring the awareness that this idea of the Passover is not just to show us who the Messiah would be and what he would accomplish through his death, burial, and resurrection, that he's the first fruits offering, that he's the firstborn, the ransomed firstborn that we see with the Israelites, and that this blood, his blood, is a picture of the blood on the doorpost. He said, after all, I am the door. Right? And this idea of the blood on the door and the scroll that would be placed on the door of the commandments, all these things being a sign, it all points back to Mashiach, to Yahushua, the Messiah, but it also points to the day in the future. Because you see, Yahuwah knew that he had sent his people out into the diaspora. He had dispersed his people for their idol worship and their ways. That's the reason the 10 northern tribes never have come back from the Assyrian captivity. That's the reason that there was all the captivities of Judea or Judah, Yehuda, at the time, that they went to Babylon, and later even, the Romans came and all these things. All this took place because they had transgressed against the commandment, and Yahuwah had already prophesied that this would happen. But he knew that when he sent them out into the world, that they would not be forgotten, that his eyes are always upon them, and he knew that they would be dispersed in these last days. And in these last days, he knew that there would be a new world order. That's all throughout the scriptures, from the book of Daniel all the way to the book of Revelation and many other places. Yahuwah speaks of this great beast system and the anti-Messiah, the Pharaoh of the end times. And Yahuwah will destroy the Pharaoh. He will destroy the anti-Messiah. He will destroy their system, and he will destroy the demons and devils that they worship. He will destroy their system of slavery. You know that human trafficking and slavery still goes on today in numbers that would blow your mind. It's generally easier to just stick your head in the sand and ignore it than to face what's going on. This system is designed to fail. They're trying to destroy the economy. They're trying to destroy your life. They're trying to rob you of morality, and they're trying to infect your children with all types of perversion and perverse ways of thinking. And ultimately, they want them to deny that there's a creator in heaven. They want to do all these things. Surely the Pharaoh did similar things to the Israelites. Surely he was arrogant and said, I have never heard of Yahuwah. Who is this? And Yahuwah said about Pharaoh, I have raised you up so that I can ultimately destroy you, so that my name will spread throughout all the world. And that is the purpose of this great Passover time. Yahuwah will seal his people with his own name. His own name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the four-lettered name. It is written that he will seal the 144,000 with this great and awesome name. It is directly tied into the oath, the pierced Aleph Taw, the pierced first and last, the picture of the Messiah. In so much that the very four letters of the ultimate name of Yahuwah, the creator of the universe, if you were to break them down individually, you will see that they point to the Messiah. The Yod, the word Yod actually comes from the Hebrew word Yad, which means a hand. In the ancient pictographs, you actually see it is an arm with a hand. The next letter, He, literally means to behold or emphasizes the subject. And we see that this ancient pictograph is a man beholding. He's got his hands lifted up, worshiping. The next letter is the nail, the wall. So we have hand, behold, nail, and then the final letter is the He again, the final behold. Hand, behold, nail, behold. That's not just what the ancient pictographs show. That's what the literal Hebrew letters mean. So the oath, the name, is all tied in. Yahuwah says he has esteemed his name and he has esteemed his word. Yahuwah Elohim has a plan of redemption for you, for your family, for your children. Do not let this system bring you down and grieve you to the degree where you cannot see this. We are obligated yearly to honor this time because Yahuwah had a plan for us, not just then and not just during the time of Messiah so that we would see and know he is the Passover, the picture of the Passover, but that he's coming again. And when he comes again, there will be plagues on this world because it is no longer just Egypt that Yahuwah is going to bring his people out of. He's going to bring them out of the world system, out of the New World Order, from all the places where they're scattered. And he will destroy the Pharaoh and all of their idols. Yahuwah be with you. Hag Sameach. Have a great festival. Shalom.